Okay, folks, a couple notes before we start. First, I just banged my shin on the desk. Didn't feel good. Second, these are the dice that come with Eldritch Horror. These are the dice that come with Arkham Horror. I'm going to be using the ones with Arkham Horror because A, they're bigger, and I kind of like that better. B, there's more of them. And with some of the tests and the modifiers and all that in the game, you need more than 4 dice. So, that'll be the first thing. Second thing, if you notice up here on the Omen track, in the green spot, I put, excuse me, I put one of the Eldritch tokens. And, you're supposed to do that with Aazithoth. And, it doesn't, replace the green spot. It just, certain events will cause you to move the Doom track down, depending on how many, number of Eldritch tokens are at that area. And, when you get there, you're supposed to add the amount of Eldritch tokens together and move the Doom track down, and also how many gates of the green comet are on the board, and then move the Doom track down accordingly. I just put the token there because it was out of the camera shot before when I had it up above the space where I normally put it. So as I said, we will be playing against Aazithoth. Okay. And so basically, the Cultist, you have to refer to the Ancient One sheet. Alright, so the Cultist with Aazithoth have a horror check of 1. They'll do 1 damage if you fail that check. They got a toughness of 1. So you just have to get 1 success to beat them. Alright. And then after resolving the horror check, lose 1 health and defeat the monster. So basically, all we have to do is pass the horror check and we defeat the Cultist for Aazithoth. Okay, the setup I just explained with the Eldritch token up there. Okay, and then this tells you about what I just said about the Omen track with the Eldritch token. Okay, in order to beat Aazithoth, we have to solve 3 mysteries. Okay, and then when Aazithoth wakes up, we're going to flip the card, and anybody who knows the Mythos, the Cthulhu Mythos, knows what happens with Aazithoth. I won't spoil it for you people who don't know, but... So, Aazithoth, the idol god, sits at the center of all things, spreading madness and death. It sees descend from the stars, threatening to crack the world in half. The first mystery we will have to solve for Aazithoth is Omen of Devastation. The Nemesis moon appears in the night sky, visible to all and heralding an imminent doom. Okay, so when an investigator closes a gate that corresponds with the current omen, he may spend 1 clue to place 1 Eldritch token on this card. At the end of the Mythos phase, if there are Eldritch tokens on this card equal to half of the investigators, okay, that's what that symbol there means, we will solve the mystery. So all we have to do is get 1 gate closed during one of the omens, and then spend a clue, put the Eldritch token on here, and we solve that mystery. Because there's only 2 investigators. Okay? Now the first mythos of the day is Torn Asunder. Alright, during the first Mythos event, you ignore all the symbols up top. You just deal with the current event of the time. So, strange forces stretch you in all directions. The portals between worlds are pulling reality apart, and you feel these unearthly energies coming from all corners of the globe. Okay, so each investigator loses a health equal to the number of gates on the game board that correspond to the current Omen track. If there are no gates that correspond to the current Omen track, advance the Omen by 1. I'm going to take that as we move the Omen track up to the blue comet here. And then because we have 1 on the board with that corresponding symbol, we move the Doom track down 1 to 14. I tried to look that up, but I couldn't find any information on it. But that's how I'm going to take it. I will be playing Mark Harrington, and I will be the lead investigator. Mark has 8 health and 4 sanity. His skills are 1 lore, 2 influence, 2 observation, 4 strength, and 4 will. So his component action is him and a monster on his spot each lose 1 health. So instead of taking like a movement action or, you know, a heal or whatever, he could take this action if he's on a spot with a monster and they both lose 1 health. Alright, and his special ability is he cannot become delayed or gain a detained condition unless he chooses to. And it says, I'm walking out that door and I'm taking this book. Anyone who wants to stop me is welcome to try. Alright, so his backstory is, during the war, Mark witnessed horrors he could not explain, and he wrote of what he saw in letters to his beloved wife, Sophie. When Mark returned home, he discovered that Sophie was no longer human. One of the beasts that Mark had seen overseas had taken over her body, killing her in the process. Afterward, Mark's thirst for vengeance led him to Helsinki, where some of these creatures had posed as German soldiers during the war. Okay, so Mark will start in Northern Europe on Space 14. He will start with the 38 revolver, and that is a weapon, naturally. And it says he can gain 2 strength during a combat encounter. And he also starts with kerosene. And it says he may discard this item to gain 5 strength during a combat encounter. Okay, so he's pretty supercharged there during if he discards that. Jen will be playing as Lola Hayes, the actress. Okay, she has 5 health and 7 sanity. She has 2 lore, 4 influence, 2 observation, 2 strength, and 3 will. Okay, and her component action is spend any number of improvement tokens, then improve 1 skill of your choice for each token spent. And a +2 token counts as 2 tokens. So basically she could trade in 1 improvement token and improve another skill. Now she says, I've played so many roles, madness is to be expected. Alright, her backstory here is, around the world, Lola has performed dramatic roles for sold-out houses. However, after being cast in the controversial play The King in Yellow, Lola needed to take some time to recover from her exhaustion. Now that she has checked herself out of the asylum, she's ready for her big comeback. But this time she'll play a different role in the fight against the horrors that threaten this world. She started to travel to Tokyo to track down the only other surviving cast member of her previous theatrical endeavor. Alright, so she'll start in Tokyo, Japan, and she will start with an 18 Derringer. And the 18 Derringer is a weapon, and it will allow her to add 1 to the result of 1 die when resolving a strength test during combat encounters. And she also starts off with a skill improvement of her choice, and I chose to improve her lore by 1. Now with these tokens, you can improve your skill twice, and then that's the maximum you can do it. So if she improves her lore in this case again, we'll flip the token over, it'll say +2, and that's it. She can't improve it anymore. The 4 assets we're going to start off with is the Lucky Rabbit Foot. It's a trinket, and once per round, you may re-roll 1 die when resolving a test with it. It costs 1 success to buy. The second is a Bullwhip. You gain +1 strength during a combat encounter, and you may also re-roll 1 die when resolving a strength test during a combat encounter, and it costs 1 success to buy. Next is the Holy Water. It's a magical item, and you may discard to gain +5 will and strength during a combat encounter, or for an action, you can discard this card to choose an investigator on your spot to gain a blessed condition, and it costs 2 successes to buy this card. And finally, we have the Arcane Manuscripts. It's a tome, and you gain +1 with the lore when resolving spell effects, and it costs 1 success to buy. Alright. Our current expedition is in Tunguska. And finally, we have an open gate on Buenos Aires, and we have a cultist there. Let's get started. I think what Mark Harrington here is going to do, what I'm going to do first is, I'm going to try and get down to Buenos Aires to close this gate. And hopefully, I won't get there this turn. Actually, I won't get there for 3 turns, but hopefully by the time the Omen track goes back around, I will be able to be there and close it. Okay, so the first thing he's going to do is take his action phase. Now remember, there's 3 phases to the game. There's the action phase, the encounter phase, and the Mythos phase. During the action phase, you can travel, meaning you can move from one space to another. You can prepare to travel, meaning you can get either a ship or a train ticket, as long as you're in a city. You can rest, which means you will, improve your, or not improve, but you will gain 1 health and 1 sanity token as long as there are no monsters in your city. And you can only max out to what your stats are in the beginning of the game. Okay, you can trade. So if 2 players were in the same city or spot on the board, they could trade possessions with each other, just not conditions. You could try to acquire assets, meaning you'll roll the amount of influence you have and how many of your successes you have. You could buy items on the reserve track on the bottom of the board there. Again, as long as there's no monsters in the city you're in. And finally, you can do your component action. Alright, so Mark's first action will be to travel from Space 14 to Rome. And then he's going to take a boat ticket. Okay, and that will be the end of his action phase. Lola here is, I want her to go down to Sydney and try and improve her strength a little bit. So, her first action is going to be to prepare for travel. She's going to take a boat ticket, but she's immediately going to spend it and go from Tokyo to spot 20 down to Sydney. So now we enter the encounter phase. Mark will go first, and he will encounter Rome. Now he has a choice. He could either encounter Rome, which is represented by the orange colored theme, represented by these encounter cards here that are orange, or he could go with a generic city encounter, represented by these black encounter cards. Okay, he's going to choose to encounter Rome itself. So we flip the card over and we go to the middle where it says Rome, and it says, "The Vatican Library is so vast, you ask a librarian for a recommendation. Test your influence." Okay, so Mark's influence is 2. We'll roll 2 dice. And all we need is 1, 5, or 6. And we got a 5. You passed. If you pass, he leads you to a codex that recounts how worshippers of Nikakhtar were driven out of Rome. And the story renews your confidence. Improve your will. So we take an improvement token for the will. Then we drop it. And then we pick it up and place it where it belongs. Okay? So now Mark has 5 will instead of 4. Okay, and then you just put the card in a discard pile. I'm going to do it off camera. I'm running out of room here. It's a big game. Okay, so we go over to Lola. Lola will encounter Sydney. So we'll pick up the purple card. And for Sydney it says, "The constable sees you. Admire the abandoned weapon. Give it a bit to see if anyone claims it. He says, if not, you can help yourself. You may become delayed to gain 1 random weapon asset from the deck." Okay, so now we have a choice. We can become delayed and gain a random weapon from the deck, or we could choose not to and just continue on. Now, being that this is in the encounter phase, it's not during her action phase, she basically won't become delayed. If it were during her action phase and something happened in her first action or whatever, we would flip her over, she would become delayed, and then she would lose her remaining actions. But being that she's not in the action phase, it's pretty much like nothing happened. So she's going to choose to become delayed and gain a random weapon. So we take the deck of assets and we start flipping until we find a weapon, and the first one is a 45 automatic. So that's what she'll use, and it will give her +3 strength during combat encounters. Alright. So then we shuffle the deck up a little bit and put it back on the board within easy reach of everybody. Okay, so now we are done the encounter phase. We move on to the Mythos phase. Okay, so Mythos cards are read from the top, left to right, and then down. Okay, so first we'll deal with these symbols up top, from left to right, and then we'll go down. Alright, so first off, we're going to move the Omen track by 1. That's what that symbol there means. Okay, so we move the Omen track by 1. That's what the symbol in the upper left corner means. Next we go to the Reckoning phase, which is this red like impact looking thing with an arrow going around it. Okay, now during the Reckoning phase there's a specific order you have to follow. First you have to go to monsters with that symbol on them. So in this case it's the Cultist. He has a red symbol down in the lower right corner of the card. You would flip it over and then you would resolve anything it says on the back. But in case of the Cultist, you have to refer to the Ancient One sheet. Now with Aazithoth, the Cultists do not have a Reckoning effect. So we move on to the Ancient Ones. Alright. And then you would refer to the Ancient One sheet again. Again, with Aazithoth, he doesn't have a Reckoning effect. Okay, next you would move on to any ongoing Mythos cards. Usually rumor cards, but there are others. But we do not have any of them yet. It's only the first round. So now we move on to the Investigators. If they have any possessions, normally conditions, with that symbol on it in the lower right hand corner of the card, then you would resolve whatever text is on the card. Again, it's the first round. We don't have any of them yet. Okay. Next, we move on to spawning a gate. That is the symbol there in the right side of the top section there with the symbols. Okay, to do this, we refer to our player reference card here. So, in a 2-player game, we would spawn 1 gate. So we take the top gate, we flip it over to reveal it, and in this case it's Tokyo. So we place the gate on Tokyo, and we draw 1 monster from the monster card. Okay, so we drew a Becky. Now we place it on the spot with the gate, in this case Tokyo. If the monster you drew had this little green symbol on it in the top right corner, you would flip the monster token over and then resolve any immediate effect it had on the back. Now we move on to the actual text of the card. So this one is Tide of Bitter Despair. A cold bitter wind howls through the trees, and people everywhere cling to their fires and blankets. The chill has settled into your bones, and there is no warmth to be found. It's an event. Each investigator loses 2 health and 2 sanity unless he discards a blessed condition. So, neither one of my investigators have either of them, so, a blessed condition, so they both lose 2 health and 2 sanity. Okay, it's the end of round 1. Wasn't too bad. It'll probably get worse. So we move on. Mark's up, so we need a clue token in order to put an Eldritch token on that sheet after we close the gate during the encounter. During the corresponding Omen track. So, first thing Mark's going to do is he is going to travel using his ticket for his boat ticket there, and he's going to move from Rome to London to Arkham. Now his second action is he's going to try and acquire some assets here. Alright, now he doesn't have a whole lot of influence. He only has 2, but we'll try. We'll see what happens. So we're going to roll 2 dice, and we get 2 successes. 5 or 6 is a success. So let's see what he could get here. He could get the holy water, or he can get like one of each. He could get like the Rabbit's Foot, the Bullwhip, or the Arcane Manuscripts. So I think what he's going to do is he's going to get the Lucky's Rabbit's Foot, and then he's going to get the Bullwhip. Okay, so that's what Mark has. Let me slide this under the... All I really need to see is the text. You got pretty lucky on that. Now we're going to restock the reserve. So we draw the first one. It's a trinket. It's a pocket watch. And it says you cannot become delayed unless you choose to. And it costs 1 success to buy that. And you could also get the dynamite, which is a weapon. It's an action. Each monster on your space loses 3 health. Then discard this card. And it costs 3 successes. Okay, so that's the end of Mark's turn. His action phase. What is Lola here going to do? She could go up and fight the Backy and just try to close the gate. And you know what? I think that's what I'm going to get her to do. I don't want to get the gates too out of control. So her first action is she's going to prepare for travel. She's going to take a boat ticket. Okay, and then we're going to immediately use it up. She's going to go back to Tokyo. Okay, and that's the end of her action phase. We move on to the encounter. So now Mark's in Arkham, and he can, if you see underneath the name of the city, they tell you what most likely you're going to get from encountering that spot. So in Arkham's case, it's going to be an incantation spell. Mark's lore is really low, so I don't know if he really wants to get that. But Lola's lure's a little bit better, so maybe he'll try to get it and then trade it off, or he could just take a generic encounter. I think I'll just try and I'll get this spell. Yeah, we'll see. Alright, so here we go. Arkham, we take the green card, and it says, in the restricted section of Miskatonic University's library, you study an historic tome. Gain 1 incantation spell. So we go through the spell deck and we look for an incantation spell going from the bottom. And the first one is it's a withering spell. When resolving a combat encounter, you may test your lore. If you pass, you gain 3 points in combat during that encounter, then flip the card and resolve the effects. Usually it's not good effects. And we shuffle the cards back up and place it back on the board. And then it continues. You try to decode a note written in the margin. Test your lore. Okay, so Mark only has 1 lore. Let's see what he can do. Ah, he passed. Shocked me. I thought he was going to fail. Okay, it says if you fail, the words put strange visions into your head, gain a hallucination condition. So you got to watch with these encounters. You can gain bad conditions. But fortunately, Mark didn't. He won. He succeeded. So, Mark's done. We move over to Lola. Lola's going to go against the Becky. Alright, so when you're in a spot with a monster, you must encounter a monster first. If you defeat it, then you can encounter the location you're on. And if there's 2 monsters, you have to encounter both monsters. You could choose which one to do first, but you must encounter both. Or however many's there. Okay, so we flip the Becky over. Alright, and it's got a sanity damage of 1. So that's the horror check. We have to get more than 1 success to pass the horror check. If we don't, we lose 1 point in sanity damage. Alright, so we test her will. She has 3 will. We roll 3 dice. All we need is 1 success. And she did not get any. So she will take 1 point of damage in sanity. Now we move on to the combat. Okay, and again, he's got a toughness of 2, so we got to roll 2 successes. If we roll less than 2 successes, he's got a damage worth of 2. So If we roll less than 2 successes, we take how many ever the damage the difference is. So if I rolled 1 success, I would subtract 1 from the damage he deals is 2, and he would take 1 hit and damage, and I would take a hit and damage. Okay? So her strength is 2, plus she has the 45, which gives her 3 more dice in strength, plus she can roll 1 extra die once per round due to her special ability. That gives us 7 dice. So let's see. And we got 3 successes. Okay, so we killed him pretty much. Now, she also had the Derringer, which will allow her to reroll 1 die. So if she had failed, you know, we could have chose 1 die and re-rolled it. But she killed it. Alright. So that wasn't too bad. She only took 1 point in damage. Sanity. Now we'll move on to the gate. So we draw another world card. Okay. And it's the future. And with these, this is called a complex encounter. You start at the top, and then whether you pass or fail depends on where you go to next. If you pass, we'll go to the middle yellow section here. If we fail, we go to the bottom red section. So, it says, you stand in Times Square, New York, but not as you know it. The streets are empty, and the buildings have crumbled to dust. It appears that you will fail to save the world, and you try desperately not to fall into despair. Test your will plus 1. So she only has 2 will. Okay, she has 3 will, but minus 1 because of the modifier on the card. She needs 1 success, and she gets it. So now we move to the yellow section here. You get to your feet and find what is left of the central library. The books you find there prove useful. Close this gate. Okay, so the gate closes. We put it into a discard pile face up. And then once the face down pile, you know, exhausts itself, we'll shuffle them up and then flip them back over into another draw pile. It says, deep in the basement of the library, you dig through the archives, searching for clues about the downfall of man. Test your lore. Okay, so she has 3 lore. And she did not get any successes. So, if she had passed, she would have gained 2 clues. So it's a bonus, you know, to closing the gate, which would have been useful. But she did not. Okay, so that's the end of the encounter phase. We move on to the Mythos phase. Okay, and we got our first rumor card. Okay, so the magnifying glass symbol here, it means that we spawn 1 clue. If we refer to our reference card here, for a 2-player game, we spawn 1 clue. Okay, so we randomly draw a clue, and it goes to spot 14. So we place it there on spot 14. Next symbol in the middle there, it means it's a rumor. We put the rumor token on space 2. Okay, so we grab our rumor token and we put it on space 2. The final symbol there on the left means we put 4 Eldritch tokens on this card. Okay, fractured reality. The strange phenomena is an echo of the claustrophobic destruction of Mu. The repercussions of the serpent people's overreaching ambition still take their toll. Okay, so it's an ongoing rumor. As an encounter, an investigator on Space 2 may use an ancient portal created by a long-dead wizard of Mu. He resolves an otherworld encounter if the effect allows him to close this gate. Solve this rumor instead. And when there are no Eldritch tokens on this card, advance the doom by 1 for each gate on the board. And then during the reckoning phase, we'll have to discard 1 token from the card. Okay, now for this particular rumor card, there's some errata from Fantasy Flight. Okay, so here, where it says, when there are no Eldritch tokens on this card, advance the doom by 1 for each gate on the board. It should read, when there are no Eldritch tokens on this card, advance the doom by 1 for each gate on the board, and then solve the rumor. Alright, and I'll put a link to Fantasy Flight's website for the errata. Okay? And that was last updated on the 20th of December 2013. I am going to place the card near the card, the rumor token, with the 4 Eldritch tokens on there, just to remind me that it's there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so basically what happens is, if we go to space 2, we can draw an otherworld encounter. If it says to close a gate on the card, if we pass the test, then we can basically get rid of the rumor. If we don't, and we get 4 reckonings, we'll have to remove the tokens 1 by 1 on each reckoning, and then we solve the rumor anyway. Okay? And we advance the doom token as necessary. Alright, so that wasn't so bad, I guess. On the round 3.